Hi, my name is Mitch Ridder. We're here on the grounds of the Festival of Arts in Laguna Beach. I am a freelance photographer. I work currently as a photojournalist for the Laguna Beach Independent, and then I also have my fine art side, which is what I do here in the summers. I exhibit my fine art photography. My first summer here was the summer of '98. I showed watercolors from '98 through 2008, came back with photography in 2009. Not only you juried to get into the show, but then the jury comes around throughout the show and scores everybody on kind of a bell curve. And I got juried out of the show and was out for 6 years. Came back again with photography in 2017 and will be in again next summer. We have all sorts of fine arts here. We have painting, photography, ceramics, printmaking, jewelry, sculpture, woodwork, digital art. I think that's probably most of the categories. Every summer, about 30% of those artists are juried out of the show. Usually every summer I do a theme, a particular theme. I've done a series on the old road signs, the gas stations, garages. For my watercolors several years I did a series of animal themes where I did just the half face of the animal. Did those for maybe 2 years. Very tight, very photographic. After 24 years of working in the tight detail, I burned out. And I knew I wanted to do something creative. I had been a photographer as a hobbyist photographer, got my first camera at the age of 10. So it was something I'd always done, but never done professionally. As an exhibitor at the Festival of Arts, I had a co-exhibitor that was both a painter and a photographer, but also taught at the local community college. And he said, come take one of my classes. And within 2.5 months of the first class, I said, this is what I want to do. This is an old garage gas station in Utah. And I had it here at the Festival of Arts a couple summers ago on exhibit. And I had just sold one piece, returned from the sales booth, and there was a husband and wife standing in front of it, and the woman was crying. And I said, what's wrong? And she couldn't even speak, so I turned to the husband, and he said, that's her father's garage. Often what I do when I travel is I research locations. This was a series from old gas stations, garages, and motel signs. It's so difficult to find these old locations that are somewhat intact, that haven't been completely restored, that have a feel of rust to them. That you have to find them first, you have to locate them. The Queen Mary is a good example of how I like to work. Queen Mary is a world-known landmark, typically photographed from maybe only 2 different angles, one from across the harbor entrance and one from the parking lot, which is on the opposite side of this. So I'm thinking, how can I show this landmark in a new, unique way? The first thing I do often to think is I open up Google satellite maps and I'm looking at a satellite view of the Queen Mary, and all of a sudden I remembered there's that rock jetty that completely surrounds the hull of the ship. And I'm thinking, well, maybe if I can get out on that jetty. One of the things that I didn't envision was, because this ship is surrounded by this jetty, it leaves this pristine, calm water around the bottom of the hull, which created a mirror reflection of the ship. In my mind, it was originally going to be a horizontal shot, but then it suddenly became a vertical to include the reflection. I found that when I was a painter, people mistook my paintings for photos, and now they think my photos are paintings. I have 3 or 4 times, maybe 2 or 3 times this summer, I had people who would look at my photos, then look at me in my chair and say, did you go here? With Laguna's long, rich art history, no one has done a contemporary and a comprehensive fine art coffee table book. Through the suggestion of a good friend who is a local freelance writer and publisher, we went out to breakfast one morning and he said, Mitch, have you ever thought about doing a book? And I said, well, I've thought about it, but I don't know how realistic it is, especially what I do working in full color. Full color printing is very expensive. To do a nice quality book probably is upwards of $25,000, $30,000. He had been a fan of my photography and had his own boutique publishing company and thought I should do a book. I instantly thought, well, got to do a Laguna book. I've grown up here, I've lived here my whole life, and I think because the way I know the city so well, I also work as a photojournalist for a local newspaper. So if I combine my photojournalism, my street photography, and my fine art photography, I think I come up with images that are different and unique from what most people know and show here. I decided to try to take that on. I started shooting specifically for the book 4 years ago. Of course, I already had some existing photos, but once I got into the project, I realized to do this book properly, I really have to cover the breadth of subjects that I just listed. For instance, if someone were to walk into a bookstore and saw my book on a shelf, had never been to Laguna Beach, never knew anything about it, they could pick up this book, flip through it, and instantly get a feel for what it's like. I'm always looking for a different angle to try to make things new. I have a good feeling for what makes a good image, and to me, lighting is everything. I've become a bit of a light snob, especially since I became a photographer. It was important while I was a painter, but especially as a photographer, lighting is everything. And I'll shoot what's called the blue hour, which is about 25 to 30 minutes before sunrise, and again 25-30 minutes after sunset, because there's a nice balance of light between ambient light that's still in the sky and the artificial light of the city. Otherwise, I shoot the hour after sunrise and the hour before sunset, which is the golden hour. I worked for the city's lifeguard department for 38 years. I was Diane Keaton's lifeguard for a few years. She actually has a background herself in photography, so I thought, well, how cool would it be, her being a former resident, to ask if she would be interested in writing the foreword. She said, yeah. I do a lot of post-processing, which is the difference between the efficiency of the human eye and the camera. Our human eye can see a wide range of light, from bright to dark. Camera can't do that. Camera kind of takes an average, and if you're shooting a scene that has bright highlights and dark shadows, you have to kind of pick and choose what you want to emphasize and what will be properly exposed. The great thing with post-processing is you're able to equal that out. And I try to bring it back to roughly what the human eye sees. For selecting images, I usually know in my mind, even before shooting it, what I'm looking for, even if the composition changes a little bit. But in the process of actually looking at the images, it's just an intuitive thing. The best shot usually picks itself. Try to have a passion for what you do. There are so many people that are stuck into jobs that they don't love. And I think really the best work from an individual comes when it's something they love. And they can't wait to start, and they have a hard time stopping because they love it so much. I like to have my work be respected. I'm always running into people here around town that see my work on social media, that the power of the internet and social media is unbelievable, and it opens up my work to an audience that I never would have had before. That, to me, I think sometimes is more valuable than money in my wallet. So.